3, which I think is slide 24. So here we are. And this should not be a big mystery because insurance is just another type of what? Contract. Good. So we spent 3 chapters talking about it, and we slipped it in other ways too. Right? We talked about warranties and how they relate to contracts. And now just a special kind of contract. Still has to have all the elements of a contract, but it has a particular purpose in mind. And as the first bullet says there, these contracts are all about transferring or allocating risk. So there's a risk that certain things might happen to you. Name some of the things that could happen to you. Death. That one's for certain. There's a 100% chance that that's going to happen. The question is what, when, and how. Right? So some people, that's their whole life job is just trying to figure out when and how you're going to die. Right? And sounds kind of morbid. But what kind of things are they going to take into account? Your health, your age, your lifestyle, what you do for a living, what's happened in the rest of your family. Are you going to have things that your relatives have had? What else?
Number of children you have.
Right. So there's lots of different factors that could affect when and how you die. Where you live at, even. Like, where was I recently? Downtown Chicago or something. I bet the life expectancy of somebody who lives in Chicago is shorter. Especially if you're a pedestrian. Oh my goodness, man. First of all, everybody there drives like idiots. Sorry if you're from there. And everybody who walks just stand. I saw people standing in the middle of the road on their cell phone in traffic. I'm like, why are you're going to get killed? They just went around them. So it seems like life expectancy might be a little lower in those type of situations. Or if you're you window wash in skyscrapers or something, I don't know what it is, but that might affect the risk. So as you have these different types of risks that you might die, that you might have poor health, that your house might burn down, whatever it is, you could save up a pile of money and then tell somebody where it's at after you go, right? I mean, that's one way to do it. Stuff it in your mattress. Another way, though, is to give your money to someone else with an agreement that they'll give it to someone else when that risk occurs, right? So, and, we keep talking about risk. Well, what is risk? According to the chapter, it's prediction concerning potential loss, known and unknown factors. There's even risks that are unknown. Like we can only really anticipate the risks we can know about, if that makes sense. Like it's hard to anticipate risks we wouldn't know about. Right? Once the first asteroid hits us, after that we'll probably be really aware. But until then we're like, that'll be a policy, be asteroid policy. Probably won't last very long after that, but once they start hitting, according to all the movies I've seen, at least. But, is it on this slide? Yeah, there it is. It kind of came up surprise on the bottom there. Terrorism is an example of that. I mean, think about before 9/11, people who owned tall buildings didn't necessarily anticipate that something was going to happen. And there was a provision in policies that says all risk insurance, and all risk really isn't all risk. I mean, there's a risk that aliens could abduct you. Maybe there's not. I don't know. But, we don't know, because if you'd been abducted, you wouldn't be here today, right? So, anyway. So there's a risk that some things are going to happen. Others are risks we don't know about till they happen, and then we start contemplating them, and then we try to say, hey, you're in a tall building, therefore you need to have this type of protection. Then if some other type of terrorism happens, think of things that are happening today in the news. Is there any type of risk that you can anticipate that maybe really hasn't happened a whole lot yet? Well, I don't.
Are we thinking about going to war with Korea or something?
Yeah, don't be spreading that rumor.
I'm just saying.
War is a risk, right? There's got to be insurance for that. I mean, depending on what part of the country, and there's a good chance that you may or may not be at war at any particular time. But yeah. I mean, I think that's something that's happening in the news today. Yeah, that's one that could happen. Nuclear war.
Hostage situation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, think about key employees and how somebody might, depending on what part of the world you're in. Was recently in the news they were talking about convicting some pirates around Somalia who were, right? Who were stealing people off of ships and then holding them for ransom. Depending on where you're shipping, this could be a real problem, right? I guess they decided to attack a battleship. Oops. So now the defense is we really never were able to, right? We fired on them and they returned some heavy fire, and then we were just saying hi, hello, oops. This thing just went off. They apparently had rocket launchers and all kinds of stuff, but yeah, you got to watch who you pick on. So there's that. What other kind of... think about things that are happening in the news that you just would not have think could have happened. What's that?
Poison in the mail.
Right? Getting things through the mail. There was a time where anthrax was not something you would get, right? Even today when I was coming in, they were talking about WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks. Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Right? What gets so upset? I don't like Oprah, so there.
She's done after this year.
I thought you were talking about Oprah when I came in.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Gave away more cards.
I know. She was talking. She gave away iPads.
One of my best friends was on that show.
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding, I love her, but I wanted to be there.
Yeah. So there's a risk that Oprah might give you something, I guess. I don't know.
I'll take that.
But that'd be good. So WikiLeaks, a site where they kind of put information out there, and the latest one was supposedly some embarrassing governmental information about other governments and how we might characterize leaders of other countries. But if you think about it, even when I was a kid, my dad said, don't put anything in writing you don't want the entire stinking world to hear or see. And it's true. But there's a risk with that, right? I mean, you really could affect your reputation or your business if that kind of information gets out.
The Army private who leaked it is actually in custody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not good. It's not good. Well, I thought of it because of terrorism. Like now they're saying that WikiLeaks may be terrorists because they're basically doing things that would damage the government. Interesting. So all of this is about managing the different type of risks that we can't always anticipate, but as they happen, we do. So these terms should not be unfamiliar to you. You probably heard of an insurance policy before. Everyone has one, or has had one, or needs one, right? What kind of insurance do you have? Car, home, life, health. Yeah. So these policies are all contracts. The premium is the consideration that you need for a contract. Remember the 4 elements of a contract? What are they?
Offer.
Which is
Consideration.
agreement, that first element. Consideration is the second one, yes. What's next? Good time to review. What? Capacity, yeah. Capacity is the other one. And then the last one, legality. You got to have an insurance policy that's for a legal purpose. All right, so make sure you know about those 4 elements. An underwriter, we were talking earlier about those that determine risk, allocate risk. That's what they do in the putting terms into insurance policies. And then we've covered agency. Remember that chapter? What chapter was that? Yes, 17. So in that chapter, we talk about an agent being somebody who represents a principal as they deal with third party. So in this case, an insurance agent represents who?
The insurance company.
Yeah, a lot of times, if you hear the term agent, they do. I mean, an agent is an agent, right? They could represent whoever is the principal, but in some cases, that's the insurance company. In other cases, they might be a broker, right? They can work for you to get you the best deal. I can't help but think of the two big players on TV. What is Flo, the annoying woman? I mean, I guess it depends on whether some people like her, some people don't like her so much. I know. I think that's where she falls. Or the lizard, Geico, right? All about finding you the best deal, right? Okay.
I don't even know if it's insurance. The guy who's like, I'm a teenage girl, and smashes it.
No, he's really a hot teenage girl.
He's like, I'm a really hot teenage girl, and then the dude runs.
Isn't it State Farm?
Mayhem, yeah.
Yeah, it's Mayhem.
Emotionally compromised.
I love that rating.
Like that. Those commercials are funny. He's like, I'm a windstorm, jumping up.
They're all on YouTube. They're pretty funny. If you watch Hulu, anybody ever use Hulu? Usually one of their commercials that come on, and they've got all his heads, and he's all the different mayhem. You can click on them. It's pretty funny. So, insurable interest. In order to have insurance, you have to have an insurable interest in something. Like, for example, my family has an insurable interest in my life. I have an insurable interest in my car. You all could not take out an insurance policy on me. I mean, you couldn't pull your money together hoping that I die and you collect. Right?
How can employers take
Why not? You're like, I want to do this.
Well,
right, key employees. So you could have key employee insurance because you're going to suffer a loss if you lose that key employee. And sometimes there's a lot of money tied up in training that person, investing in them.
The key employee.
Well, key employee I think is kind of a legal term. Like we say, reasonable person. Like, what is a key employee? Walmart got in trouble for that. Walmart was insuring all their employees. Right. Yeah, so the greeter had $100,000 insurance policy. Now I'm paraphrasing Walmart, please forgive me. But, in some cases, not the greeters aren't key employees. That's not how I mean it. But, when the family didn't have enough money to bury the person, but Walmart was able to collect on it, this is a problem, right? So, yeah, key employee insurance is another insurable interest you may have. And then, like I was just mentioning, there's different types of insurable interest you have. You might have it on life. You might have it on property. I was going to have it on my wife's wedding ring. However, I thought she'd find out it's not real, so I couldn't have it appraised. Sorry, honey. Hope you never listen to this. So we'll talk about appraisal in a minute. I know one of my students will run into my wife one day and say, "Oh, let me see your ring."
Oh, that's fake.
That's fake, by the way. It was a difficult financial time for me. So, all right. So, if insurance is a contract, it's governed by the general principles of contract law. It's regulated by the state, which is true. You have to be licensed to sell insurance. You have to comply with state law. Notice that it says an application is an offer here, and then later it's going to say the application can become part of the insurance contract. Yeah, can become. So often insurance companies will say whatever you said in the application becomes part of our agreement. So then later if you say something that wasn't entirely accurate, and why might you say something inaccurate or dishonest on your application? Right. There's something going on you don't want them to know about because you want it to be covered. You've had a bad driving history. What's that?
Like money issues.
Right. You don't want them to know about that. Maybe you say you're older when you're really younger, or you're younger when you're older. It has to be supported by consideration because that's an element of contract. And the parties, the insurance company as well as the insured, need to have capacity. So, all these provisions have their own slide. So you don't have to keep writing all these down. That's what that little arrow means. More coming. But we'll talk about the application. When insurance is effective. It's not necessarily effective the date it's signed or the date you apply for it. And that has made a difference in the past as to whether something's covered or not. talking about specific provisions and clauses. There's a exhibit in your chapter, 23-3. What's 23-3?
Insurance contract provisions.
Yeah, so provisions and clauses. So besides this on the slide, you can write Exhibit 23-3, because there's going to be a question about that. Should be on the left-hand bottom side, 682. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get to that. Language about interpreting the provisions of an insurance contract, how insurance can be canceled, our rights and duties under contract, just like other contracts we've talked about, and then some of the defenses, which should be a no-brainer. Not that if you can't answer it, you don't have a brain, but I mean, basically, what do you think an insurance company, because I'm kind of jaded, I feel like insurance companies really make money by not paying claims. Yeah. I know, it's shocking. But what kind of reasons do you think they might come up with for not wanting to pay you?
Because it was not, it wasn't in the contract.
Right.
That they
It's a contract. It's not in the contract. It's not covered. Your house was destroyed by flood. You didn't have flood insurance. It was really destroyed by the hurricane before the flood, so it's not covered that way. Yeah.
A friend of mine, she got in an accident when it was raining out. She got cut off by a truck and hit the guardrail, and they measured her treads, and they said her treads were worn, so they didn't pay.
Wow, I've never heard that before. What's that? Yeah, well, maybe they didn't want to pay that. Yeah. Everybody go change your tires.
Oh, my mother's house was.
Are you going to pay for them?
Blown
No, I'm just going to say crazy things.
When my mother's house was broken into.
I thought you said blown up.
It was blown up. Whoever broke into it inadvertently somehow blew the house up.
Inadvertently, accidentally blew her house
I don't
up.
know. We never. She used to testify against a lot of people. So.
She in witness protection now?
No.
Because we're recording. I don't want to talk about her. Okay.
The insurance company fought that, saying that because it was a hazard of her occupation.
Her occupation was testifying in other. Oh, that as a nurse in a, you should risk that somebody's going to break in your house and blow it up. Well, hey, nurses out there, watch out.
Right. Your house might get blown up.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I've had lots of death threats against me. What's that? I know, but stay away from the windows.
They're usually only after the exam.
Yeah, only after final grades are posted. No, the Michigan militia, I'm on their wanted list.
Really?
If any of you are in, like, really? I better go look that up.
That's crazy.
Cool. Is there a reward?
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Well, my grandpa, he was a prison guard at Iowa State Prison.
Ah.
He had,
He might know me.
he had crazy charms.
T-H-O-M?
T-O-M-S. Big,
Oh, never
huge,
mind.
tall,
Yeah.
6'7", and he's huge. Man. But anyway, I always never understood when I was little why he always had a P.O. box. And stuff, because he was like, they're not
Ship
gonna
that
know
bond to
where
the
I
post office.
They're not going to know where I live.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had some close run-ins before. When I was a prosecutor for 5 years, and everybody said they wanted to kill me. So.
And he was in the crazy, because he was an RN, so he
Yeah.
was with crazy people.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I did that too. I was in I told you that psychiatric facility. Not that I was there doing other things, and that's right. And then what else? I did something else that caused people to not like me very much. Teach. No, what else? What else was it? I did something else. I don't know. Yeah. It'll come to me later. Cancellation. Sometimes people are concerned that if they don't pay a premium, the insurance gets canceled, or if they need to get out of insurance contract, can they? Oh yeah, we already got to the end of this, didn't we? Sorry, we got off a little bit there. So the application, as I mentioned, may become part of the insurance contract because the insurance company has concerns about misstatements or misrepresentations in the policy. And later we're going to talk about the anti-lapse provision, or in the, somebody help me, 23.3 first.
Anti-lapse, appraisal, arbitration. Incontestability.
Incontestability clause. Incontestability clause saying that, after a certain point, the insurance company shouldn't be able to go back and say you said something wrong on your application. So if you make it part of the insurance contract, then it could be a breach of contract later. All right, and effective date, we mentioned that it depends on when the contract is actually binding. For example, it's been a while since I got a vehicle, but when I go to get insurance, I will call them from wherever I'm at and say, I need insurance. How much is it going to be? They tell me right on the spot. And then I ask for the insurance to be faxed right there. And then when I leave, it's because I know that if I leave and I don't have insurance, something's going to happen to me. Okay? So when it's effective is important to know. And, that could be on the other end, too. Something lapses, you don't know it's lapsed, and then something happens. And as it mentions in the bottom one, it might be a condition in the contract. Once you pay the premium, then you will have insurance in effect. Or once you pass the physical examination. It's one thing to disclose certain things on the application, but you need to pass a physical exam in some cases. Now, coinsurance. If you knew how bad I was at math, you'd know that I won't ask you this on a quiz. But since you don't know, I won't ask you. But this is, what page is that?
682.
682 still, kind of stuck there. So on page 682, they kind of give you a math example of coinsurance. It starts out on this slide. If an owner insures a property for at least 80% of, why wouldn't somebody insure their property for less than?
The actual value.
Yeah. Why would they do that? Yes, you're darn right. Because earlier I said sometimes you pay in, you never get anything out. Why pay so much if there's a risk that you won't actually have a total loss? So why not make your premiums cheaper? Well, if you do and then you do have a loss, maybe you won't be able to recover as much. So you take the amount of insurance, you divide it by the co-insurance percentage, which is, in this case, in this example, 80% times whatever the property value is. And if you divide that all out, you'll get what you'll actually be able to recover under these type of clauses. In other words, the owner is responsible for the difference themselves. So this is that exhibit. And I will probably either have some statement and then you'll go, oh, that looks familiar. That sounds true. But watch and make sure that the statement matches up with the type of clause. Or I might have a scenario and then list these different type of clauses and you have to pick the right one. So make sure you know the different types of clauses and what they mean, how to differentiate between them. So an anti-lapse clause, basically it's that idea of if you did make a payment for some reason, you'd have some type of grace period before your insurance policy would lapse, whether it's auto or whatever. Sometimes this is something you can control, sometimes it's not. I had a situation where an employer overpaid me, which is easy, but thank you.
I got this.
Thank you. And so the next pay period, instead of taking out what they overpaid me, they took out my entire paycheck and what they overpaid me, because apparently just paying me anything was overpaying. And my wife called me. She says, we're bouncing checks. Like, how is that possible? I just looked at our checking account. It's fine, and I just got paid. She says, well, better look into that. You just got paid thing. And apparently they were authorized to put in amounts and take out what they put in, but nothing different. So instead of letting me know and working something out, they just sucked out everything they put in and then corrected it later. But anyway, the reason I'm telling that story is because meanwhile, back on the farm, the insurance company wasn't get paid. Yeah, it is ranch, that's right. Anybody, money coming in, no money coming in. Money still going out, that didn't work so well. So luckily I had a grace period. Appraisal clause. I won't tell you who that employer was. An appraisal clause, you think of appraisal, like determining the value of something. Could be on the front end, tail end. Could be you need to insure something and you need to come to some type of agreement as to how much it's worth. I mentioned that whole ring example earlier. Don't mention that to my wife. Or on the other end, if you get a loss, right? That how much is the loss? Anybody ever had that situation come up, been in an accident or something, and question about, they don't necessarily take your word for it. They want to have some kind of appraiser or somebody take a look at it.
Sometimes that works in the right.
Yeah, sometimes. But if that doesn't work out and there's some type of disagreement, if you look closely at most insurance policies, there's an arbitration clause, which says if you have a disagreement with the insurer, usually you don't take that to court. You try to settle that with them or go through some neutral third party. We mentioned incontestability earlier, a clause that says that after a certain period of time, the insurance company shouldn't be able to go back and contest the original statements made in the application.
Is that a popular thing?
Yeah. It's a popular thing for insured people to want in their insurance contract, sometimes required by law. That at some point you shouldn't, the idea that you can't wait forever to bring a cause of action or to raise a legal defense. After a certain point, you shouldn't just try to avoid paying all claims by claiming it was something. At that point, you shouldn't be relying on things that were made. That's why I said sometimes they make it part of the contract, and if you committed fraud in entering into the contract, they might ask for to be able to avoid their obligations under the contract. Multiple insurance. I don't know if anyone's had this come up. Each year I have to, what do they call it, open enrollment for insurance here. And one of the things they ask is, do I have any other insurance and what sources and what does it cover? So you might have multiple insurance policies that could kick in any given situation, right? What's the general rule about how much you can get? We talk about in terms of remedies and other areas. You shouldn't be made more than whole, right? So you shouldn't be able to recover for the same thing from two different contracts. And if there's something that some other company might cover, then one insurance company probably doesn't want to pay it all. All right, so cancellation. I think of this kind of like at-will employment. Like you could still quit your insurance company, but for them, it's a little more to it. Like putting in notice in writing that they're going to cancel in compliance with the terms of the insurance policy and law. Now, you might be able to get out of a contract. It might have some ramifications, right? Anybody know the difference between whole life and term life? Anybody have life insurance?
Term expires.
Right. So, well, doesn't it all at some point? So, yeah, often terms for a term, right? And often term is paying in, saving nothing, and you're not going to see it. Versus whole life is often some kind of savings component built into it. And so, depending on where you're at in that, if you get out of it, you might suffer a loss or be some penalty for that. So there's this idea of good faith, and if for some reason an insurance company doesn't follow that, then there might be an action against them for acting in bad faith, and that could be everything from not paying claim that you're entitled to receive a benefit from to just delaying for a long period of time. And, as we've been through Hurricane Katrina and other big disasters, some people have had some real issues with how long it takes to get claims paid. You never know when mayhem's going to come along. It took me a while to get why the guy's so beat up. I'm like, why did they get such a nasty looking beat up guy to do those commercials, right? So we mentioned defenses against payment earlier. Here's some examples of what the insurance company might raise to an otherwise valid contract. Fraud, something you said was a misrepresentation done intentionally to induce them to enter into a contract, and it mentions giving them your wrong age or providing information that was inaccurate or not providing information you should have. Smoking is a big one, right? No one wants to admit that they smoke when it comes to insurance, at least. And they might later argue that you were. Concurrent causation. Concurrent meaning at the same time. Causation as meaning caused. Put it together. Maybe there are multiple factors that cause a loss. And then the question becomes whether it's something that the contract covered. Earlier I was mentioning that example of homes that were destroyed and somebody claiming, well, it was flooded, therefore I should recover. And then the insurance company saying, yes, but it was destroyed by hurricane before it flooded. Okay. So there's those questions that come up in terms of, was the actual reason for the loss covered under the insurance policy? All right, let's take a look at the group activity under assignments. Since this is your graded activity for Chapter 23, this is probably, I know you were already listening, but tune in to this one. Goes without saying, right? Exactly. Got that on the recording. All right, so group discussion for Chapter 23. Answer them yourself. Come prepared next class to discuss them as a group and present your group answers. These are based loosely on some real cases, so in some cases I just used case names, and others I made up names. You probably can tell from the second question, Frenchie's Fast Fries, that is not a real restaurant, but you've ate there before? All right. So I'm going to attempt to kind of lay this out, draw it out for you to see if that will help you at all. So Vanessa purchases 40 acres of land in rural Louisiana. And she has a 1,600 square foot house on it. So far, it's kind of like a gnome house or something, or a missile. But anyway, and so far, I'm not sure how much this has to do with the question. And there's a metal barn nearby. There's the barn. And 7 months later, she meets Lance Finney, which has got to be the coolest name. Lance Finney. That sounds cool. Who'd been seeking a small plot of rural property to rent. After several meetings, she invites Finney to live on a corner of her property in exchange for Finney's assistance in cutting wood
And tending her
and tending her property. You guys. Everybody's got to do something. All right. So she agrees to store Finney's sailboat in her barn. So it's kind of like a pirate ship, doesn't it? So anyway, so that this is the barn. Who knew when I wrote this question it would be this bad? With her consent, Finney constructed a concrete and oak foundation on her property. We'll say it's down here. And then purchased a 190 square foot dome. I don't know. I did that, so anyway. And it's $3,395. Wow. 190 square feet. It's like, is that like 19 by 10?
Yeah.
That's a dinky little dome for $3,400. But anyway. And the dome was shipped by Doty Express. All right. Which, by the way, is a transportation company licensed to serve the public. When he received it, Finney installed the dome frame and fabric exterior so the dome was detachable from the foundation. A year after Finney installed the dome, she wrote Finney a note saying, "I've decided to give you 4 acres of land surrounding your dome." It's drawn on this man. So let's say it's this.
This done a really good job.
I think he did. All right. This gift violated no local land use restrictions. I just put that in there in case one of you said, well, what if it violated any land use restriction? All right. So, A, is the dome real property or personal property? And explain, don't answer. But we did talk a little bit at the beginning of this chapter about how to distinguish between the two. And there is a key phrase in the last sentence of the first paragraph that would help you with that. That one should be pretty easy. B, is Denai's gift of land to Finney a testamentary gift, a gift causa mortis, or a gift inter vivos? Don't answer that. But a gift inter vivos means what?
One time.
While living. Causa mortis means in contemplation of death. That's the only reason. Or testamentary means after. So you should be able to, you give the gift before, but it's delivered after, right? There is a phrase in here, or a sentence, which should help you with that one too. All right, C, what type of bailment relationship was created when Denai agreed to store Finney's boat? And that you can look at ordinary bailments. What page is that on?
672.
672. And as you do your group discussion, the key part of that is determining who benefits from the bailment. Don't go off into benefits that aren't given in the question. And then based on that, there's also some discussion of what duty of care is owed based on that kind of bailment, right? Remember that? Low, high, reasonable degree of care depending on who benefits from the bailment. So first step, the group determines what kind of bailment it is, and then the degree of care that's owed. And then D, what standard of care applied to the shipment of the dome by Doty Express? So it defines Doty Express as a transportation company licensed to serve the public, so there's a part of your chapter that talks about that one. That one should be pretty straightforward. Any questions about number 1? No? All right, 3F, Frenchie's Fast Fries, requires that its employees wear uniforms and protective clothing while on the job. 3F provides a locker room for the employees to leave their street clothes and personal items while working. A sign on the back of the locker room door states, Frenchie's is not responsible for the loss of any property in the locker room. Grant, a 3F employee, changes his clothes in the locker room before starting work and leaves his wallet and watch in a pocket of his jacket, hanging in his locker. When he returns after his shift, the wallet and watch are gone. A, does Grant's leaving personal items in the locker room constitute a bailment? So you'll have to decide whether that's enough for bailment. And I would say, note to self, look at the elements of a bailment. If so, what type of bailment? If not, what else could it be? Maybe a gift. It doesn't sound like a gift. And then B is, does 3F sign exculpate the company for Grant's loss? Why or why not? Exculpate means what? Exclude. Limit their liability. Try to avoid having liability for his stuff turning up missing. Okay, so I think a lot of that relates to what, if you think there's a bailment or not and why. All right, 3. Taken partly out of real life and partly out of a movie. During a storm on Blue Lake, a boat sinks, but its owner, Cappy, like White Cappy or Capitan, yes, survives. Cappy plans to return to the site of the wreck to salvage his equipment and his possession, but he delays. Wah, wah, wah. Should have went right out there.
During the storm.
During the storm.
Dive right in.
Meanwhile, Dick, an amateur diver, discovers the wreck and strips it clean of useful items. Cappy learns of the recovery and files a suit against Dick, claiming the items are his. Dick responds that the sunken boat was abandoned. Sad. So go to the part of your chapter that deals in what? Loss, mislaid, and abandoned property. Look at what you need to have abandonment and determine if that's the case. And if you do or you don't, the question goes on, or the statement goes on and says, and therefore he has good title to everything to which he took possession. What is the court likely to rule? Now, somebody in the previous class said, well, how long when it says he delays? Let's say, he didn't jump in during the storm. But, I don't know. It was longer than that. A while. A week, 2 days. Yes. I mean, what we're really getting to is the time is not the criteria. I mean, after a period of time of no one ever going up, it was really, really long, maybe. But you need to figure out what the single most important element is that the court looks at when considering whether somebody abandoned property. It's one word. You guys will be able to figure that out, I think. And then go on to explain why the court would rule that way. All right, we'll stop there, and I will see you next time.